All right, guys, today in front of me from Barrell Craft Spirits, we are going over 3 private releases sent out by the company. One of them being a Ruby Port barrel that was distilled in Kentucky and Indiana. Next is the Barrell Bourbon private releases, the GX A1 blend. I'll get into the details as we review these, but this is distilled in Kentucky, Tennessee, and Indiana. And then we have the St. Agrestis Brooklyn Amaro Cask. This one being distilled in Kentucky and Indiana. Definitely excited to get into these. I did have a tasting not that long ago, just to try them out and see what they were all about. But now we're going to go ahead and get into the detailed review of these 3 private releases, guys. So without further ado, let's go. All right, guys, so we're going to go ahead and start with the Barrell whiskey. Now, this one was finished in Ruby Port barrels. The distillate is from Kentucky and Indiana. Comes in at 123.9 proof. Let's go ahead and get in the nose. So this one's actually opened up a lot since I first tried it. This is a very kind of like berry forward, caramel, kind of vanilla on the nose. Yeah, so further into the glass, that berry presence really starts to become dominant. It's like strawberry, kind of blackberry forward there on the nose. Further away from the glass, those berries, that berried aroma is still kind of there. And then some of that vanilla and kind of caramel start to come about. It's not overly potent on the nose. Like I said, I mean, as you go further into the glass, I mean, those berries are definitely, they become more dominant. But again, a nice kind of like caramel, kind of vanilla there on the nose as well. Let's get into the palate, guys. Cheers. Yeah, so this one, again, I remember this one being very kind of sugary and sweet on the front to mid palate. I do pick up a little like hit of some rye spice there on that mid palate, but it's definitely like those kind of like sugared berries there on the front of the palate. Rye spice starts to make its presence known there on the mid palate with that proof being 123.9, not shy there. On the back of the palate, again, it brings a little bit of that kind of port influence to it, but some of those, again, traditional notes kind of appear more on the back of the palate than as to the front. It actually has a medium to long finish. I still kind of feel it going down, lingering on a little bit. Not necessarily on that long side, but still a pretty nice finish. Let's get into the last sip, guys. Yeah, so again, a lot of berried, like sugary berries on the front, like some almost like a vanilla fudge kind of mixed in there too. Middle of the palate, the rye spices kind of died down, and now it's more. I do start to pick up a little bit of maybe like a slight hint of like a spice cake. It's like a fruited, like a berried, like a kind of a spice cake. A little bit of rye spice again there on the mid palate. Back of the palate, some of that fruit starts to appear there, some of that berry a little bit, and then some white pepper kind of as it goes down. Again, medium to long finish, definitely on that medium side, but kind of borderline along that long finish. Again, pretty good port barrel finish here from Barrell Craft Spirits. All right, guys, so we're going to go ahead and get into the Barrell Bourbon private release. So this one actually is it's called GX A1. It is 75% of a 5-year, 15% of a 7-year, 5% of a 9-year, and 5% of a 14-year. Comes in at 119.94 proof. And again, the distillate is from Kentucky, Indiana, and Tennessee. Let's go and get in the nose. So this one actually has a lot of berryness too. This is more like it's like a salted kind of like caramel blueberry. It's like a salted kind of caramel blueberry. There is some berries on this one. There's just like salted kind of caramel, almost like with some scotches, how you almost get like a little bit of a salty, maybe briny. But I kind of get that on the nose with this one. It's like a salted blueberry, a salted caramel blueberry on the nose. Further away, I pick up like a nice kind of like cinnamon and vanilla. But as you go in further into the glass, it is a salted caramel blueberry on the nose. Let's get into the palate, guys. Cheers. So on the front of the palate, the front to mid is like a very kind of sugary fruit, cinnamon, kind of brown sugar, kind of going on there on the front to mid palate. A little bit of some rye spice there. 119 proof, so a little less than the first one. Back of the palate, it gets surprisingly more viscous on the back of the palate. Definitely a lot of oils there going on the back of the palate. Into the finish, it pulls in like this pitted fruit, almost like a little bit of like some peaches, maybe some peaches there. But definitely more viscous towards the back. Again, a lot of brown sugared, cinnamon fruits there on the front. It's pretty good. Let's get the last sip, guys. Yeah, so front of the palate, it's like a sugary kind of like an apricot, a sugar-coated apricot, rolled in some like brown sugar and cinnamon there on the front to mid palate. That kind of like rye spice burst kind of died down. Middle to the back of the palate, nice kind of vanilla cream, a little bit of black pepper. Again, definitely gets oily, but then starts to pull like a little bit of peach. Maybe a little bit of peaches that start to appear there on the back of the palate. Again, some pepper. And then definitely the oiliness really starts to kind of coat the back of the throat there and the back of the palate. This is actually an even better bourbon release here by Barrell Craft Spirit. All right, guys, so the last one we're going to get into is the St. Agrestis Brooklyn Amaro Cask. This one comes in at 123.2 proof. Distillate is from Kentucky and Indiana. Let's go ahead and get in the nose. Yeah, so this one comes off very herbal. There's a little bit of like wintergreen kind of mint going on, but there's also like this kind of like base of vanilla, like a vanilla cream, a thick vanilla cream that's kind of like a baseline on the nose on this one. But again, you do start to pick up some of that wintergreen, a little bit of like some herbal kind of aromas there as well. I actually get a little bit of like some floral in there too. A little bit further in the glass, it becomes very kind of floral wintergreen. Further away, again, you start to pick up like a that baseline of like a vanilla cream. Again, it's definitely a little earthy. There's some herbal, some minty on this one. Let's get in the palate, guys. Cheers. So on the palate, this one comes off spicy, a nice kind of like a spice hit there on the front and mid palate. But again, a lot of what I was getting on the nose is a reflection of what's on the palate here. It does have a lot of herbalness to it. There's a lot of earthiness, a lot of herbs. Like there's like some like thyme. Yeah, there's a lot going on here. There's like some baking spices. Like a pepper, a cooking pepper kind of flavor to it, not the spiciness, but it gets like kind of earthy up front, floral in the middle, herbal in the back. A little bit of that mint starts to appear there in the back. Has a nice kind of viscosity, like a nice kind of viscous coating around the palate. I would say it drinks its proof. Like again, it came off kind of spicy on that first one, the first sip. Let's get a last sip, guys. Cheers. Yeah, so for me, again, on the front of the palate, there's like an earthiness. In the middle of the palate, it's floral. In the back of the palate, it's like herbal. It goes through like these three kind of stages. It's not like grassy or anything like that, but there's just like those kind of like earthy, herbal kind of notes to it. That kind of like flows into the back of the palate. A little bit of white pepper there too in the back. This is definitely this is the most interesting one out of the bunch. Either way, still really good stuff here from Barrell Craft Spirits. So I want to thank you guys for tuning into this episode of Dusty Dan's Whiskey Reviews. I want to send a big thank you over to the team, Barrell Craft Spirits, for supplying me with these samples here to review on the channel. I mean, I think it's awesome, guys. 3 different private releases I never thought I would see. Again, big thanks to Barrell Craft Spirits for sending me these. Again, all 3 of the releases were pretty good. Definitely a fan. Probably my favorite, honestly, is probably the bourbon there. I think it offered the best flavor profile out of all 3. Either way, as always, great stuff here by Barrell Craft Spirits, guys. So if you're looking for more reviews like this, make sure you hit the subscribe button and bell notification to be alerted of any upcoming reviews or live streams. You also find me on Instagram at Dusty Dan's Whiskey Reviews. Until next time, guys, stay dusty.